My parents emptied their bank account. Every single penny from selling their home. $650,000 went straight to my brother Marcus for his wedding. I was still trying to understand why when the second surprise hit me like a truck. They demanded I kick out the family renting my apartment so they could move in without paying anything. When I said no, they arrived at my building with their bags, banging on windows like they already had the keys. That moment changed everything. They weren't asking for help. They were taking over my world. What happened next shocked everyone who knew our family. Let me tell you about the person I used to be before this chaos started. My name is Sophie and I spent the last 7 years building my photography business from nothing. Most people would find me wearing my favorite hoodie and sneakers, holding my camera, taking pictures of families and babies while music played softly in my small studio. My hands were always covered in editing pen marks, and my desk was messy with printed photos. People thought my job was easy until they watched me work for 12 hours without stopping. That's always been my life story. Nobody noticed how hard I worked until things exploded. Growing up, everything was always about Marcus. He was the special one, the golden child who could do nothing wrong. Me. I was told to be patient and kind. I heard those words every single day of my childhood. Be patient when Marcus gets the new computer. Be kind when Marcus needs money for his fancy trips. Be understanding when your brother gets help paying for his car, but you have to save your own money. So I did save my money. I worked 3 different jobs, eating cheap food, building a life I paid for completely alone. Meanwhile, Marcus got checks from mom and dad whenever he asked. My mother always said the same thing with a big smile. Boys need more support, honey. Get tougher. Back then, I didn't understand she really meant it. Less help for me, more responsibility on my shoulders. When I grew up, I moved away. Not because I hated them, but because I could finally be myself when I wasn't being pushed into the role of the forever forgotten daughter. Then I married Ryan, the only person who saw the real me. Not the version my family wanted, but the woman who fought for everything she loved. We bought a nice townhouse in Riverside and started planning our future together. Quiet breakfasts with tea on our balcony. Late nights picking colors for the nursery, dreaming about the baby I was carrying. The peaceful life I worked so many years to create. Part of that peace came from my investment property in Maplewood. A small apartment building I bought with money I saved myself. The Johnsons lived on the 2nd floor. A wonderful family with 2 kids trying to build their future. They always paid rent early, kept everything neat and tidy, never complained about anything. In my heart, they were the perfect renters any building owner would want to keep forever. So when my parents video called me one sunny afternoon, sounding excited and happy, I had zero reason to worry about what they would say. They told me their house sold super fast. 30 years of memories gone. The swing set Dad built for us, the garden Mom loved so much. I imagined them finally relaxing, maybe traveling to beaches, enjoying their older years in comfort. I actually felt happy when Mom talked about how quickly buyers wanted their house. Then she dropped the bomb. We gave all the money to Marcus. The whole $650,000. Isn't that amazing? I held my phone tighter, waiting for her to laugh or say she was joking, or even stop talking long enough to hear my shocked silence. But she just kept chattering away, describing the huge apartment Marcus found downtown with a doorman and a pool on the roof. Then came the sentence that broke something deep inside my chest. We're moving into your apartment building soon. Just tell those renters to pack up and leave. I can't remember what words came out of my mouth after that. Something quiet and polite, the kind of answer you give when your brain shuts down to protect your feelings. I ended the call and stared at my studio wall while the smell of fresh coffee filled the air, sharp and real. My parents just handed my brother $650,000 without thinking twice. And they decided, without even asking me, that my property, my investment, would become their free home. No question, no discussion, just an order wrapped up like it was totally normal. I told Ryan that same night. He stood by our kitchen sink, hands pressed on the counter, listening carefully without saying anything. "You're not really thinking about kicking them out, right?" he asked softly. "Course not." My answer came out fast and strong. "It's against the law." And it's wrong, he added gently. I nodded, but my stomach felt tight because I knew what was about to happen. My parents never respected boundaries. They smashed right through them like bulldozers. The phone calls started the very next morning. Mom called first, her voice sweet and shaky. Sophie, sweetheart, you seemed upset yesterday. We just need somewhere to live for a little while. Then Dad called, his voice harder and meaner. Your mother is crying. You need to make this right. I said the same thing over and over and over. I can't remove renters who have a legal contract. It's against the law. It's not fair. But facts only work when people want to listen. By lunchtime, Mom was sobbing on the phone. By dinner, Dad was yelling at me about family loyalty. By the next day, relatives I hadn't talked to in years suddenly remembered my phone number existed. My Aunt Linda called me at 6 in the morning. Your parents gave everything to help Marcus start his marriage. And you can't do one tiny favor? It's not tiny, I said quietly. Well, you're the one with money, she snapped back. You should help them. That was always the story. I was the capable one, the responsible one. The daughter whose feelings didn't matter because she could handle anything. Marcus sent me a text message that afternoon. Mom and Dad need a place. Stop being difficult, Sophie. Stop being difficult. Like those magic words could erase laws or basic human decency. I didn't write back. But the real explosion happened 3 days later. I was in my studio editing wedding photos on my computer when my phone started ringing non-stop. Mr. Johnson's name flashed on my screen. His voice sounded scared the second I answered. Sophie, there are people at our door saying they're moving in today. They brought suitcases. They're screaming at us. My heart dropped into my stomach. Tell me what they look like. It's an older couple. They said they're your parents. Course it was them. I told him to stay inside with his door locked. Don't let anyone in, that I was driving there right now. Then I grabbed my car keys, still wearing my paint-stained jeans, and drove across town with my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. When I turned onto Maplewood Street, I saw them immediately. My parents standing at the building entrance, 2 huge suitcases next to them, shopping bags hanging from Mom's arms like she was moving into a hotel. Mom was banging on the door so hard the glass was shaking. Dad stood next to her looking angry, like he was already planning the lecture he'd give me for being a bad daughter. Got out of my car. What are you doing here? Mom turned around, her face showing anger and relief mixed together. They won't open the door for us. It's not your apartment, I said firmly. It's family property, she insisted, like saying those words made it true. Dad walked toward me. We've been sleeping in a cheap motel for 2 weeks waiting for you to fix this mess. You created this problem yourself, I replied. You sold your house. You gave away your money. That doesn't mean my building becomes your free home. Mom's voice cracked, switching to her practiced crying routine. How can you speak to us like this after everything we sacrificed for you? Mr. Johnson opened the door just a crack. Should I call the police? He asked nervously. No, I said. Then I looked straight at my parents. But he will if you don't leave right now. The entrance went completely silent. That sharp, vibrating kind of silence that happens right before something shatters. And in that exact moment, I understood clearly what I was fighting against. Not confusion, not desperation, but entitlement so deep they genuinely believed my life existed to fix their mistakes. They walked away from the building that day only because Mr. Johnson held up his phone like he was about to dial 911. Dad mumbled something about this not being finished. Mom cried loud enough for neighbors to look out their windows. Then they dragged their suitcases back to their car like 2 people who'd been treated terribly unfairly. I watched them drive away with a cold, empty feeling spreading through my chest. It wasn't guilt, though. It was the understanding that this was only their first try. They would be back. By the next morning, the story had completely changed, and suddenly I was the villain in everyone's version. My phone lit up before the sun came up with a message from my cousin Tyler. I can't believe you abandoned your own parents like this. Then another message from Aunt Linda. We heard you refused to help them. They have nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. That was the lie they chose to spread. even though my parents had voluntarily given their entire life savings to Marcus without thinking about their own future. A family group chat I didn't even know existed filled up with mean messages about family responsibility and respecting your elders. Not a single person asked what actually happened. Not one person asked about the Johnson family or the legal rental contract. This wasn't concern for my parents. It was a planned guilt attack. Ryan watched me read message after message while I sat on our couch, one hand resting on my pregnant belly. "You can block all of them," he said gently. "I know," I answered. And I did know. But blocking them didn't solve the bigger truth. My parents believed they had total unlimited access to my life, my home, my money. If I didn't stop it completely right now, it would poison every part of the future Ryan and I were trying to build. Around that same time, information about Marcus started reaching me. Through my cousin Jessica, one of the few people who stayed neutral, I learned that Marcus couldn't get approved for his apartment loan. The bank wanted proof he had a job and steady income. She told me he had neither. Without the bank loan, he couldn't buy the place. Without buying it, the deposit he put down, my parents' $650,000, was stuck in limbo and might never come back. Suddenly, their panic made perfect sense. They'd thrown everything into Marcus's dream wedding and now had nowhere to live and no money left. 2 days later, Marcus himself called me. "Look," he said, sounding annoyed instead of embarrassed or sorry. "Money is tight right now. Victoria and I still need to pay for the wedding venue. It's only $22,000. Can you help us out?" Only $22,000. Like I kept piles of cash sitting in my closet for emergencies like this. I didn't hesitate even for a second. Well, his silence wasn't shock. It was offense that I dared say no to him. "Wow," he said coldly. "Great sister you are, mister." Another word twisted into a weapon to hurt me. That night, after one more round of nasty messages from relatives demanding I step up and help, something inside me clicked into place like a locked door. I opened my laptop and started typing an email. Not emotional, not defensive, just facts. A timeline of everything that happened, screenshots of the rental contract, records of their house sale, every single detail in clear, impossible to deny language. At the end, I wrote one sentence. "If anyone thinks my parents deserve housing more than the Johnson family does, please tell me when they can move in with you instead." Then I pressed send to 32 people. By the next morning, the group chat was completely silent. The silence after my email lasted almost 2 full days, long enough for me to hope briefly that the nightmare had ended. But entitlement doesn't disappear. It waits, changes its face, and comes back wearing a friendlier mask. It was a Saturday morning in late spring. Ryan and I were in the kitchen, sunshine pouring through the windows while we joked around about baby names. For the first time in weeks, my shoulders felt relaxed. My phone wasn't buzzing constantly. My parents hadn't called. Even Marcus had gone quiet. Peace felt strange but wonderful. Then the doorbell rang. Not once. Over and over and over, insistently. Ryan checked through the window. His voice dropped low. "Sophie, they're here." I opened my security camera app, and there they were. My parents on the front porch, dressed nicely, like they were coming for a holiday dinner instead of ambushing the daughter they'd been attacking for weeks. Mom held a bouquet of roses. Dad carried a bag of groceries. Mom leaned toward the camera, smiling in a way that felt more like acting than a real apology. "Sweetheart, we brought ingredients for your favorite chicken soup." Open the door. Ryan looked at me. "This is manipulation." I knew it. I felt it in the tightness of my chest. The way her voice pulled at an old instinct to make peace, to give in, to make things easier for everyone. That was the role I played my entire childhood. But I wasn't that little girl anymore. Dad cleared his throat, speaking directly into the camera. "We've had time to think. We made some mistakes. Let's just talk like grown-ups." Talk like grown-ups. A phrase he used every single time he wanted control disguised as being reasonable. I stayed where I was, leaning against the hallway wall, phone still in my hand. I didn't move toward the door. Mom kept talking, her voice trembling dramatically. "Please, honey. We've been staying somewhere terrible. We're exhausted. We miss you so much." Ryan whispered to me. They're not here to apologize. They're here to get inside. He was absolutely right. Every I'm sorry was vague, unclear, and perfectly paired with a request for me to do the exact thing I already told them I wouldn't do. When I didn't respond at all, Dad's tone changed instantly. The performance cracked open. Sophie, this is ridiculous. Open this door right now. Mom echoed him even louder. We are your parents. We deserve respect. Respect. They used that word like a weapon. When neither Ryan nor I moved, Dad stepped back and crossed his arms. If you don't let us inside, we'll stay here until you do. You can't ignore us forever. My pulse beat steadily, not panicked, just clear and focused. This was it. The final escalation. They wanted a scene, a crack, any sign I could be guilted back into obedience. Instead, I opened my phone and dialed the non-emergency police number. The operator answered. I took a deep breath. I need to report trespassing. Same people as before at my rental property. Ryan watched me with quiet pride. I watched myself too, like someone finally stepping into the life she deserved. Outside, my parents kept talking, completely unaware I just made the call that would change our relationship forever. Think about the baby, Mom pleaded suddenly, as if mentioning my pregnancy would soften my heart. Don't you want us to be part of their life? Not like this, I thought. Not with ownership instead of love. Dad knocked again, harder this time, his fist pounding. Sophie, stop this drama right now. It was almost funny coming from the people staging a porch invasion with flowers and guilt trips. When the police car turned onto our street, their heads snapped toward it. Mom's face crumpled instantly. Dad's jaw clenched tight. They both stepped backward, uncertain for the first time. The officer walked up calmly. Ma'am, sir, the homeowner has asked you to leave this property. Mom pointed toward our door. We're her parents. She's being unreasonable. She's not, Ryan said from behind me firmly. The officer nodded at them. You need to leave immediately. You've been warned before. Dad looked directly at the camera, eyes cold and hard. You'll regret this choice, Sophie. But regret was never going to happen. Relief was. They left slowly, dramatically, like actors hoping the audience would feel sorry for them. Car doors slammed shut, the engine roared to life, and they drove away without another word spoken. When the officer left, Ryan wrapped his arms around me tightly. I didn't cry at all. Instead, something inside me unlocked quietly, decisively. A breath I'd been holding for years finally left my body completely. But the day wasn't finished yet. That evening my phone buzzed one more time. Marcus. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. What did you do? He yelled. Mom is hysterical. Dad is furious at you. I protected my home, I said calmly. You embarrassed them. They created this situation, I replied. I just enforced a boundary. He scoffed loudly. Unbelievable. They gave me everything to build my future, and you can't even give them one place to stay. There it was. The hierarchy completely exposed. They gave you everything, I said softly. Not me. A long silence stretched between us on the phone. Then you're going to pay for this, he hissed angrily. I hung up immediately. But the real ending wasn't a phone call or confrontation. It came 3 days later in a plain white envelope delivered to my parents' new apartment, the tiny studio they finally rented when all their options disappeared, a formal letter written by my lawyer. Stop trespassing or face serious legal action. Any more attempts to enter my properties would be documented and submitted to court. According to Jessica, my parents went completely pale reading it. Not angry, not devastated, shocked. In the weeks that followed, the noise around me finally stopped. My parents moved into a small studio apartment across town. Nothing like the life they imagined when they gave Marcus $650,000, but it was the only place their remaining money could afford. The calls from relatives disappeared too, once they realized the story version they'd been told didn't match up against facts, contracts, and police reports. Entitlement is loud at first, but it dies quickly when nobody feeds it anymore. The Johnson family stayed in the Maplewood building, grateful and steady, sending me photos of the vegetable garden they planted in the shared yard. Their kindness felt like the universe reminding me I'd chosen the right people to protect. Home real quiet returned. The kind that settles into the walls and stays there peacefully. Ryan and I finished painting the nursery, brushing soft yellow paint onto the walls while afternoon sunlight drifted through the window. Every brushstroke felt like reclaiming something important. Space, safety, a future unmarked by manipulation. For the first time in my entire life, my boundaries weren't questioned or punished. They simply existed, and the life on the other side of them was peaceful and mine. Looking back now, people assumed the hardest part was calling the police on my own parents. It wasn't that. The hardest part was realizing how long I'd lived smaller than I needed to. Shrinking myself to keep peace. Accepting tiny crumbs of respect because I was told daughters should be patient and understanding. But peace built on silence isn't real peace at all. It's surrender. And the day I stopped surrendering, my life finally opened up completely. My parents may never understand the line I drew in the sand, but that line is exactly why my child will grow up in a home shaped by love, not guilt and obligation. That's the legacy I'm choosing to create. If any part of my story felt familiar to you, share your experience in the comments below. And if you want more real stories about family boundaries and finding your voice, make sure you subscribe to Glow Girl Revenge so you don't miss the next one.